Hi there, I'm Lauren with Bold Notion Quilting, and I wanted to talk to you a bit about today my Border Buddy ruler. So this is a fun new ruler. You can see that it doesn't have any kind of outside opening. It actually comes together as a puzzle piece. I know that there are some domestic and some long arm machines out there that when you try to get those rulers, I wonder if I have one. If you try to get those rulers that just have the 1/4 inch opening around your hopper foot or your shaft of your hopper foot and your needle, it can be really difficult to get it to go in and go around. And so for me, I have the APQS machine, and it's easy enough to get it around, but there's a lot of friction when I put it on, and I don't like putting that force over my machine. So I decided to develop these, which will be more convenient for not only other users like me, but other machines that have that problem as well. So let me give you some tips and tricks on how to use this and some ideas so that you can get one of these, take them home, and get real creative. For those of you that already have them, I know you've already been using them and you love them, but hopefully some of these tips can help you out. So let's take it to the machine. So like I was saying before, when you try to get these little 1/4 inch cutouts over your machine, there can be a little bit of a give that happens. When you're putting it on, there can be a good bit of friction. And then when I try to do it from the other angle, there's quite a bit of needle deflection, and I don't want to be pushing my needle back and forth and causing bends and bumps in my needle. I don't want to mess up my timing or anything. So I have not been using this since I got my new machine. And when I had my old machine, I had to put my needle in the down position. No, I had to pull my needle in the up position to take my ruler off. And when I had to do that, what it would do is it would move my machine, and then I'd have to tack off my threads and start again, and that's no fun either. So instead, make sure you have your ruler base. So I've got a square acrylic base on here for support. That's absolutely necessary when you're doing any kind of ruler work. It protects your hands, it protects your needle, it protects your machine. And so all I do is I tack off my threads before I put it in there, but I just want to show you the basis. If I want to get in the big circle, I put it in the big one, and I close the puzzle. Medium circle, close the puzzle. Small circle, close the puzzle. Now, the way that the puzzle is made, you can get it on and off actually with one hand. I wanted to make sure that it wasn't too hard to get off. That's the one thing that makes me cringe is when I'm trying to pull apart puzzle pieces for rulers. I always think I'm going to break them. And then also, you can't put it on the wrong way. There's only one way it goes on. So we've got some markings on the ruler. I want to show you they're very important. So we've got 90-degree crosshairs and then 45-degree crosshairs. So you can kind of, I know it seems silly to turn and angle a circle, but it is really helpful to line these up in the same areas so that you know that your circle is centered exactly where you want it to be. And then the rulers, the sizes, we've got 1 3/4, 3/4 of an inch, and 2 3/4. And I wanted those odd sizes because sashings, as we know, are common 1, 2, and 3 inches. But I mean, let's be real, when we sew, sometimes they're not always 1 inch, 2 inch, or 3 inches consistently. And then finally on the side, we've got some really fun, just extra registration marks. So if you want to do some curved cross hatching or curves or waves or anything in that, you have some fun lines to gauge along with that too. So let's go ahead and see how this works. So I'm just going to go ahead and get my needle started. As an added bonus, I had the shape of the circle ruler be a circle. There's a good reason for that. I want to be able to use the outside curves. Now I will say I have the most success when I can put my thumb and my forefinger over the two puzzle pieces. This makes sure to keep them locked together because you don't want to put pressure and have it pop out. Okay, and I'm going to go around my big circle. Stop when you get too close to your hand. Switch hands, thumb and forefinger. Okay, so we've got a beautiful circle, and I'm just gonna come down a little ways and stop here. So you can see that pretty circular design that we have. We're going to do the big one, 2 3/4 on the inside. And so what I'm going to do is, you see I've turned this so I can line up my 45-degree crosshairs with the edge of my circle, just to make sure that they're even, so I know that my circle's pointing that way, so it doesn't end up too close to this side or too close to this side. So I'm using those registration marks just to gauge that my circle's in the right space. Okay, so I've got my circle on there, and I will say, I mean, you could have just easily done it this way too, which would have given you probably a little bit more power. I like to do the circles on the inside. So I have these designed on the inside because then you can just kind of push all the way around the circle and you don't have to worry about veering off the edge of it. Let's do our medium circle now. So I'm just going to hold that down and try to make sure that it's pointed the same way. And then we're going to do the baby. And this is just kind of a fun way to get some fun designs going there. I, of course, let that slip a little bit. And now I'm just going to fill these in. I messed up the circle a little bit, so we'll make it a little wonky in there. And then just kind of do another guess on that. We'll do feathers in here. These are just fun, creative ideas for how you could mix and match your circles. Okay. We're gonna pop this back together and we'll use those registration lines to do some curves. Just gonna go around the edge here, and I'm gonna line up my first registration line with the edge of the circle, just wherever it touches against my foot, and as soon as it can touch that circle, it's touching that circle. I'm gonna come up to what I think is the middle and do the same thing here. We're just goofing around trying to see what happens. That actually ended up pretty symmetrical. I'm excited about that. We're just gonna do it one more time. So I'm gonna line up my ruler so that this top line, okay, this one right here, is lined up with the peak of my tip, okay? I'm just gonna follow that out until my needle is right at the tip again. So it's right across, and then I'm just going to line my ruler up so that it's 1/4 inch away from the ending point. So it makes kind of like a, I don't know what that would be called. It reminds me of a claw, but it's not a claw. It's probably called something else. So that's a way that you could use those registration lines. And then of course, if you wanted to do curved cross hatching, you could just line up the lines that you previously stitched on. The smaller that they are, the more straight they're gonna look. But the bigger that they get, the more curved they'll be. So all I'm doing is I'm lining up this first registration line with my previously stitched line to give me a 1/2 inch marking, because these are all 1/4 inch apart. And then of course, you know, your needle from the edge of your ruler foot is 1/4 inch. So if I line up that first line, this is 1/4 inch from the previously stitched line to the edge of my ruler, and then from the edge of my ruler to my line that I'm gonna stitch is 1/4 inch away. So that's half. 1/4 plus 1/4 is 1/2. Okay, so we'll just keep going up. You just travel along the edges, and since you use the outside of this curve to stitch everything, you could still use it to follow your edges to keep it nice and crisp, but I often find I over travel all the time. And if I were doing this for like a show or custom quilting, I would utilize it. That makes me nervous. Okay, so you can get some curved lines in there, and then of course if you wanted to do some cross hatching with it, you certainly could. This is getting a little modern here, but just to make sure that gets finished. Then it looks like you might need one line in here, but that wouldn't be right. I just guesstimated on that one. Sometimes you have to guess, okay? So you can do some fun curved cross hatching with those lines. And then the thing that I really love about it is you could really do some like improv freeform quilting. And just kind of play with it. Find some fun stuff to do that makes you happy. Actually, I like that finishing right in there. It's kind of like an illusion. You don't really know what's going on. So if you're more of an all-over quilter and you're just getting in the realm of rulers, this is a fun one. The biggest tip that I can give you for any kind of ruler is making sure that you put some handy grip on it. So I developed this ruler. Right now I'm the only one that sells it. It's on my website, boldnotionquilting.com. It's called the Border Buddy. And I'm going to have them coming out in all different kinds of shapes in the same puzzle piece type design. And with each shape that I offer, I'll also offer a select amount of 1/8 of an inch thick, so that you can use them on low shank domestic machines too. Otherwise, these work fine on medium, high shank domestic machines, as well as on long arm style machines. So the biggest tip I can give you is to get some good grip. So this is Handy Grip. It's also on my website. It's really great. It's kind of like a clear sandpaper. I don't know if you can see. It looks like sandpaper, but it's clear. So if I put it down on my quilt, you know, I can really gauge where my lines are still. It doesn't really get in the way or impede me. And I just put a piece on every edge that I didn't want to slip. And that helps me to keep it nice and steady when I'm quilting. So again, when you're holding it, the best power point that you can hold it is with your hands over the two puzzle pieces, okay? Or over a puzzle piece and the notch, okay? And that'll make sure to keep it nice and steady, and you can do that for any size circle that you have, okay? And then of course, if you're using the big one, I just kind of put my fingers in there however I want. Some people might like to actually have their fingers touching the quilt as a means to keep it nice and steady, and that's cool too. It gives you some good options for holding. So I hope you enjoyed this quick little improv tutorial for how to use the Border Buddy ruler. Continue to look for more on my website, boldnotionquilting.com, and there's lots of online classes and fun things that you can join in on and sew with us, some free ones on there in the class catalog. So take a look. Happy quilting!